He told me I was boring right before walking away with another woman. That sentence used to wake me up in the middle of the night. Now it's just quiet. But that's where my story begins. My name is Kate Stacy. I'm 28 years old, and until that night, I thought I was building a future with the man I'd spend the rest of my life with. Thomas and I had been together for 5 years. We weren't dramatic or exciting, and maybe that was the problem. We were stable, reliable. We had our Sunday routines, our shared Spotify playlists, our little rituals, the kind of comfort that felt like home. I didn't realize he'd grown tired of it, of me. That summer, my best friend Mia invited us to a rooftop gathering. It wasn't anything fancy, just music, laughter, twinkle lights, and the smell of grilled food drifting through the evening air. I even wore the green dress Thomas once said made my eyes look like spring. He smiled when I walked out of our apartment that night, but it didn't reach his eyes. I noticed that how his attention slid right past me to check his phone. We arrived late. Mia hugged me, all warmth and perfume and chatter, then turned to Thomas. "Haven't seen you in ages. You good?" He shrugged his gaze, already scanning the crowd. "Yeah, just tired." Something inside me twitched like a string being pulled too tight. I tried to brush it off. Everyone gets tired. For a while, it was easy to pretend everything was normal. We sipped wine, caught up with old friends, laughed at college stories. But then she arrived. Elena Hart. She wasn't supposed to be there, Mia's friend from work, apparently. She had that kind of presence that didn't just enter a room, it took it. Perfectly pressed linen dress, gold jewelry glinting under the string lights, confidence dripping from every gesture. I saw Thomas notice her the moment she stepped out of the elevator. His posture changed subtle, but I caught it. The small lean forward, the hand that brushed through his hair, the flash of a smile that wasn't for me. Mia leaned close, whispering, "You okay?" I nodded, eyes fixed on Thomas as he crossed the patio, drink in hand, introducing himself to Elena like we hadn't come here together. From a distance, it looked harmless laughter, casual conversation. But every laugh from her was a tiny dagger. Every glance he gave her was another little fracture in something I didn't even realize was fragile. I tried to join the conversation once. I walked up, forced to smile. "Hey, what are you two talking about?" Thomas barely looked at me. "Elena was just telling me about her startup. She's doing really well for herself." Elena smiled sharp and sweet at the same time. "You must be Kate, right? I've heard you're dependable." That word, dependable. I laughed politely, but something in her tone felt like an insult wearing a compliment's mask. The night moved on, and Thomas stayed by her side. I found myself wandering the edges of the party, pretending to check my phone, pretending not to notice the way his hand brushed her arm when he made her laugh. When I finally decided I'd had enough, I turned to find Mia to tell her we were leaving, and that's when I heard it. Thomas's voice, loud, playful, cutting right through the music. "I could use a life with a little more excitement," he said, eyes locked on Elena. "Something less predictable." Elena smirked. "Careful, you'll hurt your girlfriend's feelings." And then Thomas laughed. That cruel, careless laugh I'd never heard from him before. Anywhere but here would be a better life. The rooftop went still. Conversations faded. The music seemed to lower itself. Every face turned toward us. I stood there, wine glass trembling in my hand, heart hammering so hard I thought I might throw up. "Thomas, what did you just say?" He looked right at me, and in his eyes there wasn't guilt, just exhaustion. Contempt wrapped in a smile. "You heard me, Kate. You're comfortable, predictable, boring." That last word, boring, it didn't echo. It detonated. People stared. Someone coughed awkwardly. The sound of an ice cube cracking in a glass was louder than my heartbeat. Elena's expression shifted, part pity, part triumph. Thomas turned away first, as if I were nothing more than an awkward footnote in his story. He offered her his arm. "Let's get out of here." And she took it, just like that. They walked toward the elevator, laughing, leaving behind a room full of stunned silence. Mia moved toward me, hand reaching out, eyes wide. "Tess." I stopped her with a shake of my head. "Don't." I put my drink down on the nearest table and straightened my posture. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just stood there for a moment, the city lights burning against the dark sky, and felt something inside me quietly collapse. Then I walked out. No words, no goodbye. Just the sound of my heels against concrete and the faint murmur of a song playing somewhere far away. In the elevator, I caught my reflection in the mirrored wall, pale, expressionless, but strangely calm, like someone watching her own story from outside the glass. When the doors opened to the street, I stepped out into the night air and breathed. The city noise swallowed me whole, and for the first time in years, I felt the silence beneath it. the silence of something ending, the silence before a new version of myself began to form. That's how it ended, not with a fight, but with a silence that cut deeper than any scream. The night air clung to my skin as I drove home. The road blurred wet asphalt, reflecting city lights like shards of broken glass. I didn't cry. I didn't even blink much. I just drove. The silence in the car was thick, almost alive. No music, no thoughts loud enough to fill the space. Just the hum of the tires, the faint echo of Thomas's laughter replaying in my skull. Boring. The word echoed like a curse, a verdict. By the time I reached our apartment, the numbness had hardened into something almost peaceful, like frost sealing over an open wound. I unlocked the door, stepped inside, and everything smelled like him. Coffee beans, sandalwood cologne, the faint trace of his deodorant mixed with laundry detergent. Our couch still had the indent where he always sat, his shoes by the door, his jacket over the chair. It felt like walking into the museum of a life that had already ended. I didn't turn on the lights. I didn't want to see too clearly. I just stood in the dark, letting my eyes adjust, tracing familiar shapes, the photo frames, the books, the plant he promised he'd water, but never did. My phone vibrated. Mia. I let it ring once, twice, the third time I answered. Kate. Oh my God, are you home? What the hell was that? He humiliated you in front of everyone. I swear, if I see him. I'm fine, I said, surprising myself with how steady I sounded. No, you're not. I'm coming over. No, I interrupted softly. Don't. I need quiet. A beat of silence. Then her voice softened. You don't have to handle this alone. I know, I said, but I think I do. I hung up before she could argue. Then I just stood there, breathing. The apartment felt smaller by the second, like the walls were pressing in, full of memories that didn't belong to me anymore. On the dining table sat a vase of half-dead tulips. I touched one, its petals crumbled under my fingers. That's when something shifted. Not anger, not grief, something sharper, cleaner. I walked into our bedroom, my bedroom now. The bed was still unmade from that morning. His side of the closet was a mess of shirts and ties. Mine was neat, organized, boring. Maybe that's what he saw: structure, order, reliability. Maybe he mistook it for dullness. I opened the closet, grabbed my small travel bag, and began to pack. No hesitation, no tears. Jeans, blouses, toothbrush, documents, laptop. Then I went to my desk and opened my laptop, logged into our joint savings account. Half the money was mine. I transferred it quietly. Then I canceled autopay for utilities, unsubscribed from the services I'd managed for us, logged out of the streaming accounts. I didn't delete anything. I just erased my presence from his life. It was methodical, almost mechanical. Every click felt like reclaiming oxygen. When I finished, I wrote a note, just one line. You wanted excitement. Here's your start. I placed it on the kitchen island beside my apartment key. I stood there for a long time, looking around the place, the life we built, and realized how temporary everything really was. Then I walked out. Down the hall, into the elevator, past the sleepy security guard who gave me a puzzled look as I wheeled my suitcase across the lobby at midnight. Outside, the air felt different, crisp, thin, like it belonged to someone freer. I didn't drive far, just to Mia's. She'd texted me her spare key months ago in case of emergencies. I guess this qualified. The apartment was dark and quiet. I let myself in, placed my bag near the couch, and stood in the living room, staring out the window at the sleeping city. For the first time, I let out a single, shaky breath that turned into a laugh, not because anything was funny, but because it was absurd. 5 years reduced to an echo in one night. I sat down, leaned my head against the couch, and whispered, I guess silence is my new soundtrack. Morning crept in, slowly, pale light spilling across Mia's curtains. My eyes felt heavy, but my chest was lighter somehow. Mia texted me a dozen times before I even got up. Did you sleep? Are you sure you're okay? Want me to take the day off? We can key his car. I smiled for the first time in days. Typed back. No keys, no tears. I'll handle it. Because that's what it was now, handling it. Quietly, methodically, without drama. I made coffee in her kitchen, sat by the window, and looked at the street below, people rushing to work, carrying their own invisible heartbreaks. It hit me then I didn't have to be anyone's stability anymore. I could be my own. And maybe that was the start of something new. For the first time, silence didn't feel like defeat. It felt like power. It had been 10 days since the rooftop. In that time, I'd rebuilt the smallest parts of a life, the kind that doesn't make noise. Wake up early, go for a run, make coffee. Work remotely from Mia's dining table where sunlight spilled across the wood like forgiveness. Mia didn't push me. Not after the first few days. She understood silence better than most people. She just left post-it notes on the fridge, "You're doing great," and cups of tea. She knew I'd forget to drink until they were cold. Then, one Friday evening, she burst through the door like a storm. "Kate, you're not going to believe this." Her eyes were wild hair frizzed from the humidity grocery bags dangling from her arms. I looked up from my laptop. That line never starts good. She dropped the bags, hands flailing dramatically. "Oh, it's good. So remember that snake Elena, and your ex, King of Boring." Turns out the universe just sent them both a personal thunderstorm. I didn't move. What happened? Mia leaned forward, voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "You know Sarah, right? My coworker. She's friends with a girl named Lila who happens to know Elena. Apparently, Miss I Could Give You a Better Life has been exposed as a fraud." I raised an eyebrow. "Fraud? Oh, it's delicious," Mia said, grinning. "Elena's so-called luxury startup? It's basically bankrupt. She was living off credit and charm-leased car, unpaid loans, the whole thing. And your genius ex-Thomas thought she was some powerhouse investor. Joke's on him, she's broke." She laughed, then lowered her voice. "And get this, her business partner dumped her after finding out she lied on their funding papers. Publicly. At an investor dinner." I stared at her for a moment, unsure how to feel. Mia crossed her arms. "And that's not even the best part. Thomas, your ex-boyfriend of impeccable judgment, apparently moved in with her for a fresh start." She used air quotes. 2 weeks later, when everything collapsed, she told him to get out. Threw his stuff in the hallway. Her words, not mine. I can't carry dead weight. A small, humorless smile tugged at my lips. Poetic. Poetic Mia blinked. "Kate, this is divine justice. He humiliated you in front of a crowd, and now he's the one standing outside with a suitcase. If that's not karma, I don't know what is." I didn't say anything. I just turned toward the window, watching the evening light fade into gold. Mia sighed. "You're not even going to gloat a little." I shook my head. "I don't need to." She frowned. "You're weirdly calm about this. I'd be popping champagne." "I'm tired, Mia. Not angry. Just done." Mia studied me for a second, her expression softening. "You've changed. Maybe I finally stopped trying to fix what wasn't mine to fix." She nodded slowly. "You deserve peace, you know. Not just quiet peace." I didn't reply. The words settled deep like warm stones in cold water. That night, after she went to bed, I sat on the couch in the dim glow of the city outside and opened my phone for the first time all day. New notifications blinked at the top of the screen, unknown numbers, messages, calls. The first one, unknown. "Kate, please, we need to talk." I froze. The area code was familiar. I didn't reply. Another came a few minutes later, unknown. "I know I hurt you. I was drunk. I didn't mean it. You know me better than anyone." I set the phone face down, let it buzz until it stopped. The next morning there were more. Unknown. "I lost everything. Elena lied to me. She used me. Please, I need someone who understands." Unknown. "I can't sleep. I keep thinking about you, how safe you made me feel. I messed up." Safe. That word again. He still didn't get it. Being safe wasn't the problem. He just didn't have the courage to appreciate peace until he'd burned it down. I turned the phone off, placed it on the windowsill, and stared at the quiet city. The truth was, I didn't feel joy. I didn't feel pity. I didn't even feel vindicated. I felt free. Mia found me an hour later, still sitting there, coffee in hand, eyes dry but clear. "You heard from him, didn't you?" she asked softly. "Yeah," I said. "He's drowning." Mia's jaw tightened. "Good." But I shook my head. "He's not my ocean anymore." She smiled faintly. "That's my girl." I didn't reply. I didn't have to. The silence between us was enough the good kind this time. The kind that didn't ache, but breathed. Later that evening, I watched the sunset from the balcony, soft pink, fading into the calm blue of dusk. For the first time, I realized I wasn't waiting for anything. Not an apology, not karma, not closure. Just peace. His downfall didn't bring me happiness. It just confirmed what I already knew walking away was the best revenge I'd ever have. The next few days felt like déjà vu, the same quiet mornings, the same messages from unknown numbers I refused to open. But guilt has a way of persistence. By midweek, my phone lit up again over and over until the sound of vibration became a background hum to my life. I'd turn it face down while I worked, but I could feel the words pulsing beneath the glass, like they wanted to claw their way into my calm. When I finally looked, it was the same pattern desperation dressed in half-truths. Unknown. You know how I get when I drink. I wasn't myself that night, unknown. You should have stopped me, Kate. You always grounded me. Unknown. You're punishing me for one mistake. Then the tone shifted, the kind of guilt that tries to disguise itself as nostalgia. Unknown. Remember that cabin in the mountains? We stayed up all night watching the snow you. In that oversized sweater, your hair still damp from the shower. You laughed when I said you looked like home. I still mean that. For a moment, I let my thumb hover over the screen. It's strange how memory can ache like a bruise you didn't know you still had. I could almost smell that cabin again. Pinewood coffee, the crackle of a fire. I remembered his hand tracing lazy circles on my wrist, the way he said my name like it was something fragile. But that version of him, that soft, gentle, careful man, was a ghost. And ghosts belong to the past. I blocked the number. 2 hours later, another message appeared from a different number, unknown. You were always too calm for your own good. You think silence makes you strong, but it just makes you lonely. You'll see. That one made me laugh, not out of amusement, more like disbelief. Even after everything, he still thought silence was weakness. He never understood that silence is sometimes survival. I turned the phone off again, slipped it into a drawer, and laced up my sneakers. Outside, the late afternoon air was thick and bright, the kind that smells faintly of rain and asphalt. I ran without music, without destination, just the sound of my breath, the rhythmic slap of my shoes on pavement. Every block I passed felt like a layer of noise peeling away his voice, his insults, his arrogance. When I reached the park, I slowed to a walk. Kids were playing soccer, a couple sat on a bench, sharing ice cream, a dog barked at pigeons. Ordinary life, simple and beautiful. That's when I realized I didn't crave revenge. I craved normalcy. I sat on a bench, tied my hair back, and watched the sky turn honey-colored. My lungs burned pleasantly, and for the first time in a long while, I felt my heartbeat not as panic, but as proof. Proof that I was still here, still breathing, still me. When I returned to Mia's apartment, the air smelled like garlic and basil. She was cooking dinner. She turned from the stove, eyebrows raised. You look lighter. I smiled faintly. I ran. From him? No, I said, toward myself. Mia grinned, ladling sauce into a pot. That's my poet. Later after dinner, I opened my phone again. Not because I missed him, but because I was done being afraid of words. More messages had piled up. Unknown. I saw your post. You look happy. That's not real. Unknown. I can't believe you've moved on this fast. Were you ever even in love with me? Unknown, you're cruel. You act calm, but you're just cold. It was almost funny the way he cycled through emotions like channels, guilt, anger, nostalgia, blame. I typed a single reply, just one. Kate, stop. Then I blocked him again, not out of anger, but closure. That night, I slept deeply for the first time in weeks. No dreams, no ghosts, no rooftop laughter haunting the corners of my mind. Just the quiet hum of the air conditioner and the sound of my own even breathing. The next morning, sunlight filtered through the curtains, painting soft lines across the wall. I stretched, yawned, and whispered to no one. Healing doesn't need witnesses. Mia and I spent the day at a weekend art market. She insisted I buy a small sketchbook and some watercolor paints. Therapy, she said. I hadn't drawn in years, but I took it anyway. That night, I sat by the window and painted something simple. A window cracked open, sunlight pouring in. It wasn't perfect, but it was mine. The phone buzzed again on the table. Another new number. Unknown. I lost everything. Please, Kate. I just need to hear your voice. You're the only one who ever made me feel real. For a long moment, I just stared at it. The desperation in his words felt almost hollow now, like an echo fading across a canyon. Then I whispered, I hope you find what you're looking for. And I pressed delete. Every sunrise felt like proof that healing doesn't always need an audience. It was a Thursday evening, the kind of dusk that turns the city gold before fading into steel. I had just finished my workout, my body slick with sweat, lungs burning in the good way, and for once I wasn't thinking about him. I remember standing in front of the mirror, tying my hair back, catching my reflection, flushed, strong, alive. There was a peace in that image I hadn't seen before. Then my phone buzzed. Again. I ignored it. I'd learned to. But as I left the gym, the vibration didn't stop. It pulsed in my pocket, a steady heartbeat of unwanted reminders. I sighed. Pulled it out. Another new number. Unknown. You win. I've lost everything. Please, Kate, just 5 minutes. I should have kept walking. But something, maybe closure, maybe curiosity, made me pause at the edge of the parking lot. That's when I heard it. Kate. My name carried on the wind. I turned. Thomas stood under the harsh fluorescent light near the entrance, looking like the ghost of the man I once loved. His clothes hung loosely, hair disheveled, eyes rimmed red. The arrogance that used to define him was gone, replaced by something brittle and desperate. He took a hesitant step forward. You finally answered. I didn't think you would. I didn't move. I didn't. He gave a broken laugh. Yeah, I figured. He shoved his hands in his pockets, looked down. I just needed to see you. Why, I asked quietly. He exhaled, trembling slightly. Because you're the only person who ever made me feel like I was worth something. I said nothing. He looked up at me, searching for softness that wasn't there anymore. Elena's gone. Everyone's gone. My friends won't even talk to me. You were right, you know. She used me. She laughed when I told her I loved her. His voice cracked. I deserved it. God, I deserved it. I nodded. Yes, you did. That stunned him. He blinked as if expecting me to comfort him, to contradict it, to slip back into the role of caretaker. When I didn't, he stepped closer. Please, Kate, I made a mistake. I was stupid. I was scared. You know how I get when I feel trapped. I panicked. But we can fix this. I tilted my head. Fix what exactly? Us. His voice broke. We can go to counseling, move somewhere new, start over. I'll do whatever it takes. I swear I've changed. A silence settled between us, long enough for the distant hum of traffic to fill the space. When I finally spoke, my voice was calm, steady, too calm for him to understand. There is no U.S. Thomas. He flinched. You don't mean that. I took a slow breath. The woman who loved you died on that rooftop. His face crumpled. Don't say that. It's true, I said softly. You killed her when you called her boring. When you looked at her like stability was something to be ashamed of. When you threw away quiet love because you thought chaos meant passion. He took another step forward. I was wrong. I see that now. You were everything, Kate. You were... Stop. He froze. I met his eyes, not with anger, not with hate, but with something far colder. Distance. You want forgiveness because you can't stand what you see in yourself right now, I said. But forgiveness isn't supposed to fix you. It's supposed to free me. And I already am. He swallowed, hard eyes shining. Please, don't say that. Why not? It's the truth. He shook his head, tears finally spilling. You don't understand. I can't. You can, I interrupted gently. You just don't want to. The air between us was sharp electric. The same light that once felt romantic now revealed everything, every flaw, every lie, every piece of the man I'd tried too long to understand. I stepped closer, just enough for him to hear the finality in my voice. The man I loved was kind, steady, and real. You're not him anymore, and I like who I am without you. Thomas's breath hitched, his lips trembling. You don't mean that. I gave him a faint, tired smile. Yes, I do. I finally do. Then I turned away. Behind me, his voice cracked one last time, a choked sound somewhere between pleading and defeat. Kate, wait. But I didn't. I walked to my car, the night air cool on my skin, every step lighter than the last. I opened the door, sat down, and for a second just watched him through the windshield. He stood there still crying, still small beneath the buzzing parking lot light. I started the engine. As I drove away, his figure grew smaller, swallowed by the dark. At the first red light, my phone buzzed again. One last message. Unknown. You'll regret this. I blocked it without hesitation. Then, as the light turned green, I whispered to myself, No, Thomas, you were my regret, and I'm finally done living in it. Some endings don't need revenge, just distance. It's been 3 months since that night in the parking lot. Time didn't heal everything, not right away, but it softened the edges. I moved into a small apartment downtown, 1 bedroom, white walls, sunlight spilling through wide windows. It's quiet here, the kind of quiet that used to scare me. Now it feels like a song only I can hear. There's a peace in routine again. Morning coffee, a jog through the park, painting in the evenings. I even hung a few of my own watercolors on the wall. They're not perfect, but they're honest. Sometimes I still catch myself thinking about Thomas not out of longing, but curiosity, wondering if he ever found something real after all the noise faded. But then the thought drifts away and I go back to whatever I was doing. He's a past chapter, not a scar, not a wound, just words on a page that's already turned. Mia visits often. She brings snacks, gossip, and flowers she insists are vibrant like my new aura. I let her talk, let her fill the room with warmth, and realize how different her voice sounds from Thomas's. Hers brings peace, not pressure. Last week, she caught me rearranging the furniture and said, You know, you look happy. I smiled. I am. It's true, but it's not the loud kind of happiness that makes you want to announce it to the world. It's the quiet kind, steady grounded, the kind that stays even when the lights go off. Sometimes I think back to that rooftop, that laugh, that word boring. It used to echo like a sentence. Now it feels more like a memory I can look at without flinching. Because maybe being boring just means being peaceful. Predictable means safe, and comfortable means home. He wanted fireworks. I wanted a fireplace. And maybe that's okay. Maybe that's the point. Not everyone deserves the calm you build inside yourself. One evening, as the sun dipped below the skyline, I was painting by the window when my phone buzzed. A new number. For a split second, I froze muscle memory. Then I exhaled and opened it. Unknown, I hope you're happy. Just that. No threats. No apologies. Just emptiness trying to reach across the distance. I stared at it for a moment. Then I didn't block it. I didn't reply either. I simply deleted it. Because sometimes closure isn't a door slamming shut, it's a window opening quietly. I went back to painting. Outside, the city lights blinked alive, one by one, like 1,000 tiny promises. The air smelled like rain, faintly sweet, full of beginnings. My brush paused mid-stroke. I looked around my apartment, the plants by the sill, the mug of coffee cooling beside me, the faint hum of traffic below. I smiled, realizing this was the life I once thought was too small. Now it felt infinite. I dipped my brush again, steady hand, steady heart, and whispered. I used to think silence was emptiness. Now I know it's the sound of peace.